Side by side, we'd walk along to the end of Gertrude Street.
Hey everybody, this is Archie Roach back at my kitchen table on our YouTube journey through Charcoal Lane. And today we'll be talking about when Charcoal Lane went to America. Back in '92, Charcoal Lane was picked up by one of the biggest independent record companies in America called High Tone, run by a fellow called Larry Sloven. And we went to America with a fellow called Mark Woods and his now wife, Natalie. Mark was a tour manager and also did sound for us at our own shows through the clubs and the folk clubs through America. Natalie did lights. And of course, Ruby was there with us. Ruby, Mr. T came with us. Terence came with us for a little while, but ended up going back home he ended up coming back home with a fellow called Grant, who was over there reporting on some of our trip through America. And Charcoal Lane, going to America, I didn't know what to think. It was a bit of a whirlwind and a bit daunting at first because our first big international tour, but still proud of it. So Charcoal Lane, going to America, and today we'll be talking to Mark Woods. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well, Archie. Good to see you, and good to hear that you're still singing and still alive and well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a bit hard, like you said before when we were just having a chat before. Missing the live shows, but we've been doing things via computer and on the internet and Zoom.
Yes, I've been at the Theatre Royal in Castlemaine for nearly 20 years now, and it's hard for the theatre, and obviously the shows have stopped, but we've been doing a few live to the internet things and Zoom things similar to this, and they're better than nothing, but not quite the same as I miss the roar of the crowd.
That's it. That's what you miss, the interaction with the crowd. And
the people, the energy from the crowd too, is you really do get a lot of that. And I mean, I'm just from the road crew point of view, but it affects me. It affects obviously the performers even more.
Oh yeah, it's what I've learned through the years, the energy that you get from the crowd, the interaction between myself and the crowd, and it's more than just people coming to listen to you sing a few songs and tell some stories. It's an actual interaction between peoples, and it's great. And I miss that. So we were able to go to America because one of the biggest independent record companies, High Tone, run by a fellow by the name of Larry Sloven, picked up Charcoal Lane, and which was a big deal. I thought, wow, it's I didn't know what to say or think about that, and but I was pretty pleased. But first time being away from home and going to America, and it was big and a bit daunting at first, but and that's I remember that being the reason why we were there in the first place, and so we started off in Canada at the Vancouver Folk Festival, and ended up in America doing so. That's how it all got started. That's how we came to be in America, if you recall, Mark.
Yes, well, that was a good job on Mushroom Records. Joan Baez, I remember, was my contact. I mean, we had toured before with the Turn Off Your Telly tour,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
yourselves, Frente and Helvellyn. They're both kind of
exactly.
younger
That's right. That's right.
kiddie bands sort of thing, just an Australian tour
Yeah,
that Mushroom had set up to promote new artists. That's what they had in common. Like
yeah,
musically, they were different. And you were probably a little bit older than the others, but we were all together in the same thing because we were new, and we were new with Mushroom, and
yeah.
it was an unlikely trio of bands to be touring in some ways, but it
Well,
was really good.
it was.
Everyone got on well. It was really nice touring, and that's how I first met you, and I guess that's where the connection from to send me across with you came from, because it
Yeah,
was a bit of a cultural shock. I'd been in America with Men at Work for a couple of years. I'd lived in America for a few years. I
yeah,
sort of at least was used to the ways of America.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but for you and Ruby, that was first time out of Australia. That was, it was a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah, it was hard getting your feet somewhere, or something you were used to.
The food, I mean, just simple things like the quantity, some of the big breakfasts and things like that
Uh,
early on. You and Ruby, all of us were going, that's the biggest plate of food I've ever seen.
and some of the venues that we played at. What was that? What was the little or the smallest American Hall or something?
Great American Music Hall.
The Great American
Yeah.
Hall. Yeah, that
Great
was.
American Music Hall in San Francisco.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
wasn't a tiny one.
No. It's.
I think one of
I
the
was surprised at the people. The people that were there. The line of people that were waiting to get in just to see us play. And I'm thinking, what is this? People have never heard me before. I thought. But yeah, the response was great. I thought anyway. It's certainly some venues, that's for sure.
yeah. Well, all of the venues, the people were there to see you. They hadn't just wandered in because there was a band playing.
Yeah,
So I guess that's the record company doing. And Larry from High Tone Records, he must have done some publicity or got the name or got the record out there.
yeah,
And did a good job because people really were, they were touched by the recording and they really wanted to see it in person. I was
yeah,
having a look back through the itineraries and things and that, and in some ways it's hard to remember much of it.
yeah.
It was, and when I look at the touring sheets, I sort of realise why. Like there was a lot of travelling.
There was.
All of my notes, every worksheet on the back of it's about, like the whole page is directions to the show
Yeah,
because we didn't have GPS or anything and it was all driving.
yeah,
And it really was taken up with a blur of getting to the shows.
yeah. No, that's
Um,
true. I remember more about getting to the shows and than the shows itself actually. And some things I do remember. The Bluebird Cafe, of course, in Nashville, which was,
Nashville.
I think
Yes.
about that now and think, wow, I didn't realise the significance of that and how important that venue is to a lot of people, especially aspiring singer-songwriters. Yeah,
Yes, a lot of those small clubs that you did, and that was the booking agent was kind of, I suppose that was their job, but they were really kind of famous little clubs.
yeah,
One of them was where Bob Dylan had started, and just sort of they all had names and famous people played there, and still did with a lot of them. They were shows I hadn't done before, but they were nice, and they had really, really nice, sympathetic audiences. I suspect, and recollection, a lot of them were Australians.
yeah. Talking to some Australians, like you said, a lot of the shows that were just a blur because, like you said, it was taken up more about getting there, getting from one venue to the next,
It
and
was. There
driving.
wasn't much. Yeah, not much time to take things in or to kind of soak up the atmosphere there. It was very much a travelling kind of time for those whole couple of months. Looking through my notes, a lot of interviews. Like there
Yeah,
was a lot of interviews that you did as well as the shows sort of thing. And of course you had to get to those and everything. So filled up the
yeah.
time quite easily.
After touring, through America around tour with the places we played, I thought after 2 months we was ready to go pack up and go back home, and record company and yourself had been talking to Joan Armatrading's people about her tour, and perhaps us going on it. There was nothing definite only until we'd finished our own tour. And I thought that was it, come back home. And you came in and gave us the good news. And, and I was thinking,
Yes. And it did end up a long time as well. I mean, a couple of months on the road when you haven't been to America before, and we're not really road animals, like not really a hard touring act kind of thing. We hadn't been up until then. Certainly done a lot of shows, but that kind of touring grind was kind of new, obviously in a different country. Yes, in some ways a reflection would have been better to kind of do 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Sort of done a few weeks there, get a feel for it, then come back 6 months later and done a bigger tour or something like that, rather than because by the time we got to Joan Armatrading, it was like we were tired.
Yeah, that's true.
But, everyone raises the energy to put on a show, but you kind of get tired around that.
But I remember some of the venues we played, people would come up. Some people would come up with gifts, and they say, "We're friends of Alice Walker, the woman that wrote *The Colour Purple.'"
That's right. Yes.
And so talking about it, and we eventually, in one of the places we played, got to meet her and spend some time with her as well. So that was, for me, that was pretty amazing. Me and Ruby to meet Alice Walker and go back to where she was staying and singing some songs. And it was an amazing lady. And,
that's right. I remember. That's right. You reminded me of that. No, that was great. That made me think. Also, we got the note from Joan Baez. That nothing really came of it. We just got a note through the booking agent saying Joan Baez had heard that one of her people, a record company, presumably, or publisher, had given her the recording. CD, she said in her note. So there must have just been CDs then, or CDs were around.
Yeah.
Anyway, Joan Baez did, she just wrote, "I love it," in a little handwritten note.
Exactly.
And then I remember giving her a call, or her people a call, and so they said, "Oh, next time we'll come along if it happens again." But as is often the way, it didn't.
Yeah. So look, it was a great time. It was unusual at first, but it was like we had Mr. T there for a little while, but he went back home. So it was just after he left, he went back with a guy called Grant Hansen, who was reporting on it, and went back home. He took Terence back, Mr. T, back to Australia, and it just left the four of us there travelling around.
Some of the other memories I have of really enjoying it were the shows. I remember always, I always liked doing shows, and they always did have an effect. Everyone was really, everyone gave it their all, sort of thing in a way. But some of the times when we're in parks, walking down sort of streets, things like that. I remember in New York and Central Park, like some of the times when we actually did get to just sort of relax or sit and chill for a while, was some of my sort of, happiest memories from it in a way. Yeah. And Ruby, of course, she was always full of beans and,
Always.
Yeah. So it was quite a happy kind of group of people in that sense. And really, we sort of all had to be responsible. It was the sort of thing where you could have thrown your hands up in the air and gone, "This is too hard." But
yeah, it's true. It's true. Look, I had fond memories of a lot of the time there, and traveling with Joan Armatrading. And what's really good about that was the tour with Joan. It was that whenever she came to Australia, a couple of years later, to perform, she'd always ask me to be her opening act for a couple of years now. So,
okay.
So it was. I think out of that, striking up that friendship with Joan Armatrading, who was, who I thought was amazing. I've always been a big fan of hers for years, and was really didn't ever think that we'd actually have this relationship, this friendship. Yeah. I remember when we first played. Yeah, because of the Joan Armatrading tour, because a lot of people, that, the show would start, and me and, the curtains would come up or whatever, and a big cheer, and then from the crowd, and me and Ruby would walk out on the stage, and they sort of all went, "Huh?" And we started singing just with the one guitar.
Oh yeah, it's a very different act.
Said, Can you do a better
She was
job?
probably saying to another, these guys are very soft, you know,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
sort of different to, and it's the same as the audience. I mean, you normally get a support act. Oh, I don't know. You were really down to earth. Like it's a very soft, intimate,
Yeah.
beautiful act. It's kind of unusual to have as an opening act. And
It's
if
true.
people weren't expecting it, I can't imagine that. But even the sound crew as well, they're
Yeah.
sort of usually expecting something a bit more up, you know, sort
Yeah.
of up and louder. I think it took them a little while to realize that this was a very smooth,
Mm.
soft thing.
It was a great time, first time there, and I remember it well. I'd like to thank you for being there for us. That first time in America, you and Natalie, me and Rube, and like I said, it was first time there. So thanks for joining us today and just talking about our trip to America and.
Oh, my pleasure, Archie. It was life changing for me. That was one of the highlights of my life, in a way. Like it was, I've done sort of bigger, more sort of flashier shows, but that one was real. That was that's very Australian. Obviously, you've got the whole.
Good on you, Mark. Mr. Mark
Terrific,
Wood,
Archie.
everybody. Thanks for your time, but.
You're very welcome and all the best.
All right. Hopefully catch you again soon when this thing blows over and maybe they catch you again up at Castlemaine.
Love to see you up in Castlemaine. I don't go too far from Castlemaine anymore. I can't be bothered touring, and I've got a studio at home anyway. But Castlemaine's the most likely place for us to meet again, and that would be fantastic, Archie.
All right then, mate.
Yes,
Thank
mate.
you very much,
Cheers.
mate.
See you later.
Side
See you.
by side, we walk along to the end of Gertrude Street.